Owning your mistakes is an important part of being a proper grown-up person, which is why I do it all the time. Just this morning, for instance, I got into a blazing row with the neighbour's kid about which Pokemon is best. And that was a mistake, let me tell you. In one recent video, we gave credits to the video games that fessed up to their former mistakes in cheeky, self-deprecating Easter eggs, and lots of folks piled into the YouTube comments to add their own suggestions. And now it's time to pay it forward and share some of our faves, but we're very minor spoilers for the following games.
Well, that's really good that you recognised your mistake, you know.
Yeah, the mistake is trying to reason with a 10-year-old who thinks Bulbasaur's the best.
That's not what I meant when I said...
What? Waste of time, I tell you, Mike. Could have been talking to the wall. Children just don't get Pokemon.
Okay, good. Yes, rational grown-up game.
Right. This better work.
The original Resident Evil was a brilliantly tense and atmospheric survival horror experience, which was quite an achievement considering how legendarily bad all of the acting was.
A dining room.
Yes, Barry, well spotted. If you were being charitable, you could argue that this terrible acting was trying to recreate the atmosphere of the schlocky B-movies that inspired the story of Resident Evil.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
If you were being uncharitable, you'd point out it sounds more like all these lines were recorded in one take by people who'd never seen the script before and who weren't all that well acquainted with the way that people talk, or sentence structure, or human emotions.
Hope this is not Chris's blood.
Part of the fault has to lie with the script, however, which reads like the kind of thing you'd write if you were trying to get fired from your job writing conversational English textbooks, and included such gems as Barry talking about acid rounds.
It's a weapon. It's really powerful, especially against living things.
Barry talking about lockpicks.
Here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
And of course, Barry comforting Jill after she was almost horribly crushed to death.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
This was such a bizarre response to someone almost dying horribly that it became legendary, even after Capcom tried to change it in the Resident Evil remake.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
Honestly, weirder. Sounds like you thought about this before, Barry. At least Capcom had a sense of humour about it, popping a sub-shop called Jill's Sandwiches into Dead Rising, giving Barry a melee attack called the Barry Sandwich in one of the game's Mercenaries modes, and there's even a character in the upcoming Resident Evil Resistance multiplayer mode called Martin Sandwich, who is apparently sick of jokes about his name. The most notable joke about this embarrassing piece of Resident Evil history, however, is in Resident Evil Revelations 2, after Claire avoids a sticky end on a piece of industrial equipment.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Yeah, I was almost a Claire sandwich.
Does Barry tell everyone that story?
So, a nice self-deprecating Easter egg there for long-time fans of the series. God knows what you thought if you weren't a long-time fan of the series. Maybe you just thought Claire hit her head on the way out.
Oh, what's that?
There you go, little miss. Cotton candy here. It's your cotton candy.
The run-up to launch for BioShock Infinite was less of a run and more of an ultra-marathon, in which the finish line was moved back several times mid-race. Which is to say, the game was delayed multiple times before it eventually came out in 2013. Hey look, we just did a complete sports metaphor. That counts as my physical activity for the week. Commenter Desmo fan was tickled to see this development history mirrored in a discreet Easter egg tucked away inside Columbia's arcade amidst the propaganda, penny arcade machines and terrifying George Washington robot.
Chop down the cherry tree. Eat crust the Delaware.
They say BioShock Infinite has a pretty good one, but it's easy to miss. When you enter the arcade, if you follow Elizabeth to the right, she comments on the new Dimwit and Duke cabinet saying, "I heard they got delayed 3 times, poking fun at Irrational's delays before release." This tells us 2 things. One, that even after the protracted development process, the thrice-delayed BioShock Infinite saw fit to make fun of itself.
Your allegiance to flag and to the nation.
It's the newest one in the series. I read it was delayed 3 times.
And 2, locked away in her tower, Elizabeth still managed to keep up with all the latest arcade industry news somehow. Probably a subscription to Ye Olde Arcade Informer.
Hey! Knock it off! Stop it!
Ow! They made magazines heavy back in the day.
Some say Alduin is Akatosh. Some say Maik is a liar. Don't you believe either of those things?
One of the fan-favourite recurring characters of the Elder Scrolls series is Mike the Liar, not to be confused with Mike the Liar, who is witty, handsome, and the Prime Minister of Norway. Mike the Liar is an Easter egg character who has appeared in every Elder Scrolls game since Morrowind, and offers a knowing meta-commentary on the game series itself, calling out bugs, glitches, and other weirdness in cryptic language.
Mike knows much, tells some.
In Skyrim, he even references the fact that he himself is a recurring character in a series spanning generations.
Mike's father was also called Mike, as was Mike's father's father. At least, that is what his father said.
I haven't been this confused since Marty McFly married his mum. I think that's what happened. It's been a long time since I watched Back to the Future. Mike the Liar appears randomly as you wander the plains of Skyrim, and will normally drop 1 or 2 pearls of wisdom before deciding he's tired of chit-chat and wandering off.
Mike is tired now. Go bother somebody else.
The only problem is trying to decipher what he's saying, given that he speaks almost exclusively in riddles. We'd say it was something to do with the 3 bottles of Skyrim drug skooma he's toting around with him, but apparently Khajiit have a natural resistance to it.
Where bears? Where? Bears? Men that are bears?
Sure they do. Our favourite though is when Mike the Liar uses his unique insight to utterly savage the shortcomings of previous games in the series, such as this quote about the people of Cyrodiil.
Mike has heard the people of Skyrim are better looking than the ones in Cyrodiil.
If you hadn't already guessed, that's a direct reference to the weird lumpen-faced people of the previous game in the series, Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion.
Why are you trying to ruin everything?
I can't tell if that's directed at me, the player, or the person who 3D modelled his face. The irony is that although he's called Mike the Liar, there's actually quite a lot of truth to the stuff he comes up with, and it's usually a bit of a treat to run into him.
Mike carries 2 weapons to be safe. What if one breaks? That would be most unlucky.
So that's Mike the Liar. Now, if you'll excuse me, Mike the Liar has to go and perform some urgent repairs to the Large Hadron Collider.
Mike is done talking.
Oh.
Being Spider-Man always comes with a price. And today that price was a steep one. What keeps me going are Uncle Ben's words. With great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man is a superhero that only really works somewhere like New York City, with its towering skyscrapers that he can stick his webs to. That's why you never see him fighting crime at sea or in Colonial Williamsburg. Or maybe he just hates everyone in Colonial Williamsburg. What'd they ever do to you, Spidey? Is it the tricorns? As such, in recent Spider-Man games, Spidey can only web swing when he's got something to attach a web line to, because realism is important in a game about a radioactive teenager with magic arachnid powers fighting an octopus man.
I won't let you win.
That wasn't always the case though. In the first Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 2, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man could web swing when and wherever he wanted, regardless of how high up he was, or if there was a building nearby. I don't know, maybe he's attaching to the bottom of a passing passenger jet? Or a large bird capable of supporting his weight? Or the International Space Station? These are all very plausible explanations. The actual explanation, according to the next Easter egg we're going to talk about, is that Spider-Man is just really, really good.
No autographs, please.
We discover this in the tutorial for Spider-Man 3, in which you're taught how to play the game by horror movie icon Bruce Campbell, because the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films were awesome.
Pressing the swing button will shoot out a web line that you can swing from. Then, hold down on the swing button to hold onto your web line.
Campbell explains that you need to anchor your web line to something because you're not good enough yet to just stick to passing clouds or whatever.
Now the trick with swinging is that you need something to swing from. That's right, you can't just swing from empty space, you're not that good yet.
That being said, I'm not sure if we're ever going to get that good. After all, you can finish the game, get all the skill upgrades, and you still have to find things to anchor your web to if you want to swing. So maybe it's just Bruce Campbell who can do that. Would make sense, that guy rules.
And stars that glow from pole to pole.
Interesting song.
Thanks! Human Prisoner used to sing. I thought maybe practice, sing with him. But then he was in Corpse Pile, so no singing with him. Happy to sing to you, though.
There's so much to love about Halo, the Master Chief, the multiplayer, the music. But I put it to you that nothing is more lovable than a teeny adorable Ungoy, except when it sticks you with a grenade. Ah, God damn it! Ungoys. Please excuse me. The Ungoi, also known as grunts, are the slightly rubbish, pint-sized, rank-and-file Covenant foot soldiers who've been doing their best, darn it, since back in the day of Halo Combat Evolved. So what a treat it is to discover an Ungoi getting some well-deserved downtime in Halo 5 Guardians, hidden away on a cliff top, vibing with some elites.
And my buddy Gripple was saying all about how he shot at a Spartan human once. No kidding, I mean, I'm serious. And it was an amazing story. It was the kind of story that makes you proud to do a war, even though we don't do wars with humans no more because the Arbiter said not to, right?
As commenter Jedi Spartan 38 notes, Halo 5 Guardians has a grunt discussing loads of weird stuff about the franchise. It's on a cliff in the mission Alliance. Indeed, you can catch this friendly grunt reminiscing about the good old days when spirits were high, graphics were less good, and Ungois were more purple.
How come do you figure stuff looks different sometimes? I mean, like guns or the Arbiter. I mean, do you remember being more purpler? I do.
They're not wrong. That's a purpling decrease of 40%.
Maybe just my eyes getting smarter, but I swear sometimes it's like there's a whole spaceship is different. Nobody says anything. And was the Gravemind always so much scary? I don't know, he was like a big puppet, big flappy thing. Maybe just beat it.
For reference, here is Gravemind before in Halo 2.
I am a monument to all your sins.
And here's Gravemind after in Halo 2 Anniversary.
I am a monument to all your sins.
Ugh. And if you need something to calm your nerves after all of that horror, and back on the topic of grunts, here is Gyoza the Pug, who is doing the Ungoi sound effects in the next Halo game. Oh, this is going to make them much harder to shoot.
Sam Fisher. I can't believe you beat me here.
I like to be early. Hello, Colonel.
You can use my name, the room's safe.
Lambert.
Good to see you again.
The 2002 game Splinter Cell introduced us to now legendary character Sam Fisher, who spent the entire game slinking around in a distractingly figure-hugging rubber suit. Hope he remembered to go before they set off for the mission. The first two games in the series, Splinter Cell and Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, were very much hardcore stealth games, requiring timing, nerve, and more patience than Sam must need getting in and out of that suit.
This operation is based around stealth. Watch the alarms.
To make matters worse, the game had an alarm system that could be activated either manually by one of the enemy guards or automatically by lasers, motion sensors, cameras, or failure in a hacking minigame.
That's our limit. One more alarm and I'm aborting the mission.
In most cases, it was a 3-strike system, where if the alarm was activated a third time, you instantly failed the mission.
That's one alarm too many. The mission's over.
Some levels even had only a single alarm activation before you failed the mission, leaving you in a spot that's tighter than Sam Fisher's rubber suit. Look, I said it was distracting, I can't help it. Arrive at the cargo ship level in the third Splinter Cell game, Chaos Theory, and Sam's handler Lambert effortlessly roasts the two previous games.
Fisher, we just pulled up Celestinia's last dry dock report for the Maria Narcissa. They have a newly installed central alarm system.
Don't tell me. 3 alarms and the mission is over?
Of course not. This is no video game, Fisher. But you don't want the whole place alerted to your presence. Keep it under control.
Yes, for Chaos Theory, the alarm system is a bit more relaxed. There are now 4 levels of alarm, and rather than instantly failing you, it simply introduces tougher enemies and defences as things escalate, meaning you always have a chance to improvise and get the job done.
That's their alarm system, Fisher. I'm warning you, be careful.
As Lambert correctly identifies, the previous system was somewhat artificial, and we reckon Chaos Theory's more realistic approach fits the Splinter Cell series stealth mechanics more snugly than the very comfortable looking green jumper that Sam wears in Splinter Cell Conviction.
Sam.
Who is this? How'd you find me?
I bet he's got the rubber suit on underneath.
You're Commander Shepard, the hero of Eden Prime. I am so honored to meet you.
Those familiar with the Mass Effect series might remember Conrad Werner. He's the begoatied Commander Shepard superfan who you can deal with in a number of different ways, from being polite and friendly,
nice to meet you, and you are,
to shooting him in the foot.
Conrad, let me make this perfectly clear.
Probably he's less of a fan after that one. Manage to restrain yourself from shooting him or shoving a gun in his face though, and by the time you get to Mass Effect 3, Werner is still a big Commander Shepard stan. Maybe too big.
If you have some kind of weird shrine of me, I'm gonna be very unhappy. It's just a poster with a few candles. It's very tasteful.
Anyway, when he isn't doing his job as president of the Commander Shepard fan club, Mass Effect 3's Conrad Werner exists to make knowing in-jokes about the drawbacks of the Mass Effect games, in a series of conversational Easter eggs you'll encounter if you can bear to spend enough time chatting to him. First up, there's the shade thrown at Mass Effect's dialogue system.
You just asked me that, Conrad. Sorry. I like to ask all the questions I can think of, and sometimes I forget which ones I've asked already.
Then this savage takedown of the weird ammunition system in the Mass Effect games.
Wait. Where do these thermal clips come from? I thought weapons cooled down. They used to. After the Geth attack a few years back, we switched to thermal clips. Well, that sounds like a major step backward.
And this explanation of a bug in Mass Effect 2 in which Conrad remembered you waving a gun in his face in Mass Effect 1, even if you didn't do that.
I'm sorry if I ever accused you of pointing a gun at me when you didn't actually do that. I was really stressed out.
Still, to get all of this out of Conrad, you need to be nice to him for a whole 3 games, so it's a relief that someone does eventually shoot him, even if it isn't Commander Shepard.
Shepard. Shepard. Did I help?
Yeah, Conrad. You helped.
Good thing, too. He was probably about to start giving us his opinions about what's wrong with the Mass Effect 3 endings.
Oh, for the love of...
Thanks one and all for your comments on the last video, and thank you for watching this video. We had a lovely time looking at your favourite Easter eggs, and we invite you to have a lovely time watching Show of the Week live, new and improved, excitingly live. It's the show you love, but also it's happening as you watch it if you watch it when it's streaming. So Show of the Week live every Wednesday from now on, and Show of the Weekend, which happens, you guessed it, on the weekend. So that's with Luke and Ellen every Saturday, and Show of the Week live every Wednesday with yours truly and, you know, those other two.